right, you guys, podcast time.
Chew. It's quieter.
Fucking podcasting right now.
Chew quieter.
And now, to the podcast studio.
All right, we're back with Chew Quieter, and today we have a special guest. His name is Bill Schultz out of Washington. You're in the Tacoma area or Lakewood?
Oh, shoot. No, I'm way up north. I'm almost in Canada. I'm in Arlington.
Oh, so you're a hoser.
I'm a hoser. Hey?
So how's it been, man? It's been a while since we've talked.
Yeah, it's been really good. As you all know, I got out of the off-road scene a couple of years ago. Just been taking it easy and got back into racing, but a different kind of racing now. I'm drag racing instead of playing in the dirt.
There's not much difference, though, is there?
I thought there would be, but you're right. The only difference is instead of cleaning off mud and dirt and rocks off the cars, I'm cleaning rubber and just regular grime off the track. So
little marbles and stuff.
Marbles, yeah.
And I'm sure it costs a little more to do that type of racing than off-road.
No, not at all.
Really?
Way cheaper.
Really?
Yeah.
Overall, like day to day on the track, weekly at the track. I mean, how often? I'm talking about overall for the year, not like building the vehicle or everything. Like throughout the year, it has to be more to drag race on a weekly basis.
Yeah. So I have a 12 race season in drag racing, and 10 of the 12 are local. So that in itself cuts costs substantial. I mean, it's huge, right? Whereas off-road, everything was out of state. We had no races in Washington State, so we were traveling.
Always travel.
Yep.
So talk about Brawler Fab a little bit. What's going on with that?
Brawler Fab. I started Brawler Fab back in, I want to say October, November of 21. And Brawler Fab has always been a part of my race program. We built and race all of our Jeeps and stuff off-road, and that was always Brawler Fab that was doing that work. And it was never really an official business or even a shop for that matter. It was just something that we called our shop. And so Brawler Fab, when I got out of racing off-road, I bought a TRX. I figured, I want something that was kind of off-road, but, something that I could drive fast when I wanted. And the TRX fit the bill, so I special ordered one. When it finally arrived, started looking online for some accessories for it, and of course, nobody made anything for the truck. So I had to go ahead and start making stuff for the truck myself, and fortunately, we still had all of the tools and equipment that we had from building race cars to go and start designing and building stuff for the truck. So that's kind of how it started. I posted a few pictures online, and other TRX owners who had also been looking for accessories for their trucks reached out and said, "Hey, where'd you get that? I want one." And so I made a couple of duplicate parts, and for individuals that asked, and it just kind of took off from there. And then I realized, maybe there's a business there somewhere.
So you just kind of stumbled upon something, and now you have two jobs.
Now I have two jobs. Trying to get out of one of them, but I don't know. We'll see.
Is the main bread and butter close to retirement?
The goal was never to really get the business to a point where I could live off of the business and retire from my real job. It was always just a hobby, just something to do on the side, keep me occupied. That was before I started drag racing, so I had nothing to do. I'd go to work, I'd come home, and there was just really nothing for me to do. And I'm used to being out in the shop working on something all the time. And so when the business started picking up, it was a good outlet for me. It kept me off the couch and in front of the TV, and I was in the shop again and doing stuff that I enjoy. And then it became really busy and turned into work. And then, of course, no one wants to work. So
then you kind of do a night out doing it. No. I'm gonna go play with race cars instead. I leave it alone.
Yeah. So we only sell parts for TRXs currently, and because of that, the market's pretty limited. And I think
especially last year of TRX coming out, is kind of giving it a dead end.
Yeah, exactly. And we've captured a good percentage of the market, being the only ones that really made any products for the truck early on. So the people that are going to spend the money and bolt stuff onto their truck, they've already done that. So we're kind of running out of customers at this point, which is good. It gave me a break, bought me some time to build what I'm sitting next to, my drag car. And but then there's always more out there. So looking at starting parts for other vehicles. We've got a Raptor that we've already started making prototype parts for. I've got a full size, well, not full size, but I guess 3/4 ton, 1 ton Ram, a new Super Duty that we're also making parts for. So in the next couple of 2-3 months, we should have some product for more of the market.
So you're saying there's no parts available for my baby Tacoma then?
I did not say that. There's always parts available, and we've actually made parts for one-off parts for individuals that had vehicles that they couldn't find what they really wanted, and so we've got experience dabbling with other brands, and we're always open to expanding. Again, I'm trying to keep this as a hobby. But I've got people that I'm working with that want it to grow into something more. So we'll keep going.
What's the one thing that translates the most from off-road to the straight track?
Great question.
Depletion of the wallet.
Yeah, depletion of the wallet. Sponsored by Visa. Probably costs. Everything costs. When you want to have fun, you got to spend money, and so costs for sure. Teamwork. You got to have a team. Trying to go out to the track and race by yourself is no fun, and you're not going to be very good at it, regardless of how good your equipment is. So teamwork, costs, obviously, and if you have the support. If you have a network of companies that are willing to support you, that always helps.
So we'll get back to the racing in a minute, but I got another question for you.
Okay.
Do you know about the Dickel?
I don't.
Okay.
Am I in trouble?
No. I just found out about the Dickel myself, and
wait, you've been playing with the Dickel since you're like 11. Come on.
So this past week, I've been on antibiotics and other medications, so I have been able to drink. So, now that I'm able to, I'm going to talk about this Dickel a little bit.
Okay.
And maybe we can get you involved in some of this also. So, it's basically it's not a Tennessee whiskey. It's a bourbon.
Okay.
And it's made just south of me in Tullahoma, Tennessee. By the way, they are not a sponsor.
Okay.
But if George Dickel Distillery wants to call and give us some bottles, I'd be more than happy to take them. But I'm spreading the word because it's fantastic bourbon.
It is.
Nice.
It is really good. It is really good. A couple years, or a year and a half ago, I was in Nashville. That was one of the stops I made when I went to Uncle Nearest. I did an Uncle Nearest and Dickel, and definitely impressed with their offering.
Very cool. I'll have
Are you
to
a
try
whiskey
it.
man?
I'm not. I don't even drink. I used to drink a lot of beer, and probably 12, 15 years ago, I decided, I've had enough. So I'll drink on occasion. I'll have, 1 or 2 beers at a party or something. Every now and then I get talked into doing a shot, but I'm not much of a drinker. I'll try it though. The
I'm going to
Diggle.
guess it's not. I'm gonna
He's not
guess it's
against
too
it.
hard
He
to
just
talk
doesn't
you
do
into
it.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get back to the car. Talk
Okay.
about the car that's behind you a little bit. How did you land on that car? What car is it?
It's
And go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what's one of the biggest things that you've done to it since you've took ownership of it?
Well, pretty much everything. So I got the car, picked up the car on the 2nd of March last year. And for about 6 months prior to buying this car, I had started my search, and my goal was to build a car and kind of dedicate the build to my late father. And the reason I picked the car that I got is the last new car he bought was a 1972 Dodge Dart. It was a Dart Swinger, as a matter of fact. And so I started looking for a 1972 Dart Swinger to build. And of course, 6 months of looking, I couldn't find anything that wasn't either completely rusted out or they wanted way too much money for. And the Dart, as well as the car that I have here, which is a Plymouth Duster, is it's a Mopar A body. And so since I couldn't find a Dart that I was looking for, I decided, okay, I'm going to broaden my search to just any A body, early 70s A body. And kind of stumbled across this one. It's a 73 Plymouth Duster. It was sitting in my friend's shop down south for about 6 years. And the previous owner had dropped it off at my friend's shop, and he was going to do a bunch of work to it for him. And then the guy got sick and eventually passed away. So the car just sat. It was all original, had a slant six in it, and just really in sad shape. But it was a perfect car for me because I was going to cut it up and build a race car anyways. And so a friend of mine told me about the car. I reached out to the guy who had it, friend of a friend. And long story short, agreed to buy it. Drove down, picked it up, brought it home. And on March 4th, which was my father's birthday, was day one of the build. And
Nice.
initially, the idea was I was going to take 20 days, all on a weekend, go to my normal 9 to 5 job, which really actually is 6 to whenever. Yeah. And only work on it on the weekends. And the goal was to completely strip the car and build a solid street and strip car, something that I could drive on the street, take it on a cruise, go to the racetrack, drag race it, and have it done in 20 days. And I started documenting the build. So day one was on his birthday, completely stripped it. Every wire, every fuel line, brake lines, I mean, everything, engine, trans, the entire interior, gutted the car, sitting bare chassis and body on jack stands after day one, and started ordering a bunch of parts. And long story short, got to about day 14, and the car was probably 80% done at that point, but I was waiting on some engine parts, and so we couldn't get the engine built. And so I kind of hit a dead end and stopped working on the car for a few months until the parts showed up. In the meantime, I started tinkering and changing things on the car, and it went from being a street and strip car to a full-blown race car. So that 2 to 3 month delay in parts totally changed my build plan. And so everything I had done to the car at that point, I had full interior in the car, all came back out. Threw in a cage. We fabricated and welded in the cage. Pulled the rear end out that I had built for the car. Went with something totally different. Just everything I had done to that point came back out and totally restarted the build. Now it's ready. It's unfortunately all the tracks are closed in our area, so I'm kind of waiting for the season to start. We're going to go. Hopefully, if weather permits, we're going to go to Vegas at the end of this month, and they've got their season opener at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll go down there for the first race of the car.
So, Bill, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm kind of a legend in the Southern California drag strip scene.
Are you really? I knew you were a legend, and I knew you were from Southern California. Did not know about the drag strips.
Yeah, so I'm the only guy at the Pomona racetrack to sit on the tree for 5 seconds after the tree went green.
Okay.
No, true story. So I used to have this truck, and I had no intention to race it on a track at all.
Uh-huh.
It was always just on the street, just a show truck, that sort of thing. And I was in a car club at the time, and they organized, hey, it's going to be an open track at Pomona. Let's all go down there and see what our vehicles can do. That was the first time ever I had been on a drag strip.
Uh-huh.
So I roll through the first stage where the water is, and I didn't burn off the water on the tires.
Okay.
So I guess that was my first mistake. And people were like, "Hey, stupid! You're supposed to do a burnout to get your tires hot a little bit."
Yep. I
had no idea. So I stage, and the tree comes and gets the second green, and I'm like, okay. And then I let off the clutch, and the tires just spun because I didn't burn that shit off.
Yeah.
So I think my reaction time was actually close to 5 seconds.
Wow.
Because
that's awesome.
Yeah.
not the kind of legend you want to be.
No, not at all.
Wrong legend. Reason for being a legend.
Yeah. That's cool that you drag race, though. I didn't know that about you.
Well, I didn't. That was my first and only race.
Yeah.
But after that, I did fix up the truck a little bit, and it was more of a street racer than a drag strip racer. So I did a lot of more street racing after that. I kind of, I threw in some. It was a Toyota. It was a '94 Toyota short bed. It was the 22 RE engine.
Uh-huh.
And so at the time there wasn't too much for it, so I did a custom 4-to-1 header, no exhaust, no cat, MSD ignition, opened up the throttle body, opened up the air intake, and that sort of thing. So it was pretty quick for what it was. But back in, this was 97, 98.
Mm-hmm.
Around there.
That was like 103 horsepower as a Fury.
Yes. And loud because there was no exhaust. So so I used to cruise Whittier Boulevard in that thing, and I got pulled over all the time just because it was so loud.
Yeah.
And then one day, one of my friends, he bought a new car and he thought it was fast, and he said, "Hey, let's go race it." And back then I wasn't even 20 years old yet.
Wow.
And we found a street that happened to be a residential street, and we're racing on a drag racing on a residential street with cars parked on the side on the curb. So you can imagine there's we're racing 4 cars wide in some spots.
Oh geez.
Yeah, really fucking stupid shit.
Yeah.
And we got to a part of the street where there was some drainage, a little dip, and I went from 4th gear and I slammed it all the way down to 2nd instead of hitting the brakes. So everything locked up. Mm-hmm. And I skidded right through the drainage. When I hit that, because my truck was lowered, I hit that, I caught air, I went straight into a telephone pole, snapped the telephone pole in half, blew up the engine, blew the A-arm off of the it was just a mess. So I totaled the truck.
Wow.
And that was the last time I decided, okay, maybe racing isn't for me.
I should have learned my lesson at the track.
Yeah.
So what makes your car not street legal?
It's actually licensed and registered, so it technically is legal. But I do have full exhaust on the car.
You just choose not to race it on the street or drive it on the street.
Yeah. So the original engine that I started to build, and of course we couldn't get parts for, was a lot milder than what's in it now. It lower compression, ran on pump gas. This engine's high compression, runs on race gas only. So that in itself is enough reason to not want to drive it on the street.
What? $10 a gallon? $20 a gallon? Are you $25 a gallon?
$16 a gallon. And
$16 a gallon.
It probably gets 4 miles to the gallon. Probably.
Quick trick to the Albertsons here, honey.
Yeah, and
$38 later.
Yeah, and the car's gutted, so it's as light as I can get it without putting a bunch of fiberglass parts on the car. It's just
uncomfortable, loud. You're not cruising it.
Yeah,
You're not taking it out. You're not driving it down Seattle down to Dick's with Mix-a-Lot.
Yeah,
right.
I do drive it around the block from time to time, and I will do a burnout out front. But that's pretty much it for street driving.
His neighbors probably like him like mine do.
They actually come out and video it when I bring it out. They're out there with their cameras, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
What size tires are in the rear?
Well, they're 29 1050s. Slicks, obviously, and I've got 26 by 4 inch wide front runners, so perfect drag setup.
So what kind of horsepower do you have right now?
The engine was built to have around 600 at the crank. It's naturally aspirated, no power adders, no nitrous. It's a small block Mopar. We had it on chassis dyno and made 440 horsepower to the tire. But that's kind of deceiving because it's got a 5800 salt converter. So we're on the converter pretty much the whole hit on the dyno. And whenever you've got a converter that has that's that loose, it's really hard to get a true reading on a chassis dyno. So it's probably making close to 600 to the crank.
And the racing that you're doing, is it a league or what's going on there?
It's a race series. So I'll be running in some NHRA events as well as the local race series. We've got a car club challenge, which we race Mopars against GMs against Fords. So it's a 3-team series basically. And then I also run in the pro class, which is a not a whole lot of rules, but you got to run within a certain time, and it's all bracket racing, so no heads up racing.
So is it structured where if you're within a certain horsepower, you race against these guys, and if you're over that horsepower, then you're in a different class? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So for the car club challenge, the car has to be a licensed, registered, street legal vehicle. So that's part of the reason why this is technically street legal, because I do race in a class that requires it. But then in the pro class, there is really no rules as far as how much horsepower you're making, what size tire you run. But there is a time. You can't be faster than a certain time or slower than a certain time to fit within that class. And then bracket racing is basically handicap racing. If you watch drag racing, sometimes you'll see a car leave, and then a second or two later the next car will leave, and the lights are staggered. So let's say, for example, I have a dial in of 10 seconds, 10-0, and the guy I'm racing has a dial in of 11.5. His lights are going to start 1.5 seconds before mine do, and then the idea is he's going to leave with the best reaction time that he can on his set of lights. I'll do the same on mine. And theoretically, we should cross the finish line together, side by side. If you go quicker than your dial in, then you automatically lose. If you red light, you automatically lose. So there's a lot of strategy involved. Sometimes people will put a dial in that's not as quick as their car truly is, and they'll catch the guy in front of them, let off, and just barely inch him out at the line. So there's just all kinds of ways that you can do well in bracket racing, but it's fun because it's not heads up, and there's strategy involved. Heads up, if you have a lot of money, you're probably going to do pretty good. Bracket racing, you can take pretty much any car, put a dial in on it, and if you run that number consistently and you're good at cutting a good reaction time on the light, you're going to do well.
Mm-hmm. So, watching a lot of these shows on Discovery, like Street Outlaws,
Yeah.
they have a similar type of format where there's, I think they have. Well, it's not exactly a tree, but they do start a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
So when you watch something like Street Outlaws, do you laugh at it, or do you sit back, and try to learn something from it?
It's a different kind of racing. For one thing, they're racing heads up, and the guy with the most money wins when it's heads up race. Well, not always. You got to have a little bit of brain, behind the wallet. But they're racing heads up, and they're trying to get to the line before the other guy, and they're supposed to leave together, right? So when that flashlight turns on, you go. And whereas bracket racing, like I said, with the staggered start, it's a handicap racing. So we're not going to be leaving necessarily at the same time, but the faster car should catch the slower car at the end of the track. So it's to me, that type of racing is more enjoyable because, like I said, there's more strategy involved, as well as knowing your car, tuning your car to be consistent and not just being as fast as it can always be, right?
Mm-hmm. So one thing I've seen lately are these videos of guys at the track, and they're losing their shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the difference between a no prep track and a prep track?
That is one indication of a track that has good prep, yes. Or the guy just didn't tie his shoe. It's just, the track is really sticky. The prep that's involved in getting a good racetrack prepared for high horsepower cars, you can lose your shoe.
Mm-hmm.
No prep is just that. There's no prep at all. You're racing on bare asphalt, like on a street.
So do they scrape the track of rubber?
Yeah. So a no prep race could mean, if you're racing at a track, it could mean that they just didn't prep it for the weekend. So I mean, when you see, like for example, on TV, Street Outlaws, right? When they're at a no prep event, and that track is black all the way at the start line, halfway down the track, that's rubber. So they might not have prepped it for the weekend, but there's definitely something on the track, right? Versus a raw asphalt street where you're not going to have that patch of rubber already laid down. And that's basically a part of the prepping of the track, is lay a surface of rubber on the asphalt.
What kind of preparation do you go through to get ready for something like that? Because it's not exactly, there aren't really simulators built for that, right? So how do you practice for launches?
There's a couple of different ways. I've drag raced for many years, even before I raced off road, and so the experience absolutely helps with knowing how to react to the Christmas tree or the lights. And there's other methods. I've got an app on my phone that I can practice reaction times. They make an app, or they make a training. A training aid to.
Yeah, they have like little trees you can buy, and it basically it's a foot pedal, and it's just it'll go through, and it'll have different timing for the light, so you're not getting used to the tempo.
Yep.
That's why a lot of guys jump, is they're going off a reaction of tempo. Yep. They're believing the timing is supposed to be here, and then they hit, and then they red light, and they weren't even looking at the light. They were just in a cadence where they knew where timing was supposed to be. Yep. So part of your training as a drag race guy that sits in a seat is to play with the app, or play with the old school used to be just like a foot pedal, like a tar pedal. Yep. And then you had a tree that comes down, and that's how I remember training used to be for the old guys. Now we get apps.
I don't use any training device because to me it doesn't help. For one thing, if your car has a trans brake, you're not leaving with your foot on the brake pedal. You're leaving off, releasing a button, right? So all of these training devices is just that. You're practicing how quickly you can release that button. My car is a foot brake car. I don't have trans brake. So I have my left foot on the brake, my right foot on the throttle, and I have to react to the lights at a certain time to get a good reaction time. So, and the other thing is every car is different, how the car reacts. Some cars react quicker than others. Some cars will actually have a delay to leaving versus the next car. So just getting to know the car, to me, is the best way to practice. And I have a routine. I leave at a certain point as the yellows are coming down. And if I'm early, if I red light, based on how much I red light by, I'll adjust when I leave. And if I'm late, I'll do the same.
Is the cadence of the tree dictated by the person operating the tree, or is it always the same?
It's always the same. It's either a 400 tree or a 500 tree. And some trees, you've got a full tree where all three yellows will go, and then you get your green. And then you've got a pro tree where all three yellows will light up, and then it goes green. So you just need to know what type of event you're racing and practice for that type of light.
So you're still two-footing. You're not in an off-road vehicle, but you're still two-footing.
I'm two-footing it off the line, yes.
So there is still a little bit of familiarity with that. I mean, it doesn't exactly translate because you're not going up obstacles, but
yeah,
you're figuring out when to go instead of letting the torque take you up an obstacle.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, do you miss that you're not going to be at KOA?
I do and I don't.
King of Hammers, I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, I do and I don't. I'm not much of a spectator. I don't like going to a race and watching. And if I'm
not watching, but the prep. I mean, right now, I mean, just look around at your feed. All these race guys are last minute prep, last minute build, last minute everything to get ready to leave. I think JP's every day, all the weekend has been on the new JL truck for this year, and I'd see all these guys that are last minute, like that last minute rush. I mean, do you miss that?
I miss the rush. I don't miss the work. Absolutely miss the time I spent with all of my buddies at the track, right? Just hanging out. I've raced in 4 King of the Hammers, and all 4 of them I spent to the last hour in the tent working on a race car before a race day. I've never been able to go and relax and enjoy the event as a spectator. And I'd like to go and watch as a spectator just to see what it's like, because I'm sure I missed a lot, right? I mean, I was in the tent working on the car every race, and never really got to cruise around and hang out. And so I might do that, just to experience it once, but no, I don't miss the work.
It would probably help if it would probably help you if you didn't buy JP's old cars.
Yeah. Only bought one. Only bought one.
Yeah, that one was a nightmare.
No, actually, it wasn't bad. Once we got it sorted out, it actually turned out to be.
Once we fixed all this shit, it was good.
It turned out to be a really good car.
No, it got delivered to Moab one year, and I remember we were out. We were at Pritchett.
Yeah,
and you had no brakes. There was no brakes on it.
I almost killed Gabe.
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of, I actually was going to show you that. So let me bring that up really quick. Okay. Because this is something that I was going to ask you anyway, and I'm glad Armando brought it up. I want you to walk me through what was going through your head.
All right. So even before the video starts, I'll tell you this. JP had me. Oh yes, pause the video for a second. JP was lining me up prior to me going for it, right? And he said, "Back down, come up, go down, come up." I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and finally I said, "Fuck it," and I just stood on it. And I think if you listen to the video, he goes, "Or do that," or something like that.
So I'm gonna go ahead and play this.
Okay.
And then you can just kind of walk me through what was going through your head as soon as you launched.
As soon as I launched, it was pretty awesome. And then the car went to the right, and I saw you, and I said, "Oh shit!"
I wonder what Ryan was thinking.
I think Ryan was laughing. No.
Yeah, he just laughed the whole time.
He does. He was laughing the whole time.
and then CC running out of the way.
Yep. One smart person in that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm probably not the smartest person standing on that rock. I mean, I was close. If that rock wasn't there, I would have been toast.
Yes. And there was no getting out of it either. I mean, there was nothing I could do. That all happened in a split second.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you can, if you guys are watching this, instead of just listening to the feed, if you guys are watching this, this is on season 2, Kingdom Crawl. I think this is episode 5, episode 4. Sorry. I don't know if I was froze or just so focused on getting the shot, but I didn't move.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that. I didn't move.
You did not move.
Yeah, there was no reaction. There was no personal welfare. It was just what happens.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck it. If it's gonna hit me, it's gonna hit me. It's gonna be a great shot. I'll be famous. Fuck it.
You know, I'm not a photographer, but I think when you watch videos of people filming, say, a baseball game or something, and how many times have you seen the ball go right into the camera? And that cameraman did not move until after the fact, right? I think you get laser focused on what you're shooting and don't realize something's coming right at you until it's too late.
Well, you know what? I don't know where I would have
missed a shot.
Yeah.
I don't know where I had either my egress would have been either downhill or backwards.
Yeah.
And either way,
no, jump on the truck.
Jump over the truck.
Jump on the truck, just like on the cage. Just.
But either way, I would have been fucked.
Yeah.
I would have been hurt. I would have been dead. I would have been something. But yeah, thankfully that rock was a little as high as it was, because that's what stopped you from going to the right even more.
Yeah.
But I think that rock also have to get up that final little ledge.
Do you remember? I think it was the year before. Same trail, but towards the beginning, I forget what that obstacle was called, but we're all going up this wall, and then this 4-door JK decides it's going to come tumbling down. You're at the bottom of the obstacle.
Yeah, that was who was that? It was a white.
It was a white JK, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I got a picture of you. You look like the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, that trophy. And instead of a football, you're carrying your camera, and you look like the Heisman Trophy. It was funnier than shit. But
so what happened was basically it was up. It wasn't Rocker Knocker, obviously. It was God, I can't remember the name of that obstacle now.
Yeah, I can't either.
But he was going up very steep incline, and he was just bouncing.
Yep.
And every bounce he kept getting closer to me, and towards the end of the bouncing, he was probably a good 5 feet from me. And I decided, okay, I need to get out of this fucking situation in a fucking hurry.
Yeah.
So I took a leap. I don't even know if I took a step. I just leaped off of the ledge, which was probably 7 feet. And that was my safe zone. I said, fuck it, I'm going to jump. And he took another little jump towards me, and then he caught a ledge, and then it somehow rolled over to the other side.
Yeah. And
that's when he flopped.
Yep. That was pretty crazy. I was the next car in line, so I had perfect view of the whole thing. And fortunately, I had my phone out, taking pictures, and Like I said, I caught that perfect shot of Gabe striking that Heisman Trophy pose.
I think that's the year that I kind of made a name for myself, was the guy that will just stand in the fucking way until
Who's that
something bad
dumbass?
that was a good year, though. I remember
That
that
was.
year. There was a lot of shit happened that year that was fun.
Yep.
And I think that was the first year I met you, actually.
It was.
And Vince.
Yes.
How was Vince?
He's doing good. He's kind
What's he up
of
to?
laying low. A lot of work, a lot of home improvement type projects, and just, his kids are starting to grow, so he's spending more time with the family, which is nice. And yeah, he's doing good.
I think that was the first year I was introduced to the Brawler Brownies, too.
I think so. Everyone.
Oh, brownies. Oh.
Yeah.
I got to take it easy on those things, because I don't know if you've heard, but I've been on a diet. I've
Oh,
been
good for
trying to
you.
diet. So I've lost a bit of weight, but yeah, I would kill a tray of those brownies right now. And it's probably the alcohol talking, but I would still
Maybe.
kill a tray of the brownies.
Yeah.
Armando, are you looking for the name of that obstacle?
No, it's not Chewy.
Yeah.
It is.
I think
Is it Chewy?
It
Is
is
it Chewy?
Chewy. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was trying to think. I think the guy, the white JK, was it David?
No, David. So it was David. David had his camera gear in there. David Price.
Okay, yeah.
Was
It was
one
David's
of the
price. It
camera
was
guys.
stuff for there. Okay.
And
Was
he
it his
had
buddy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So David had his expensive camera gear in there, and it flopped, and that's when his camera gear came spilling out and broke most of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The person that was driving was out of Texas. Oh God, I could see his face. I know who he is. I just can't remember his name for some reason right now. Sorry, man.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't-
that's
I
fine.
can't remember.
I didn't get to go on the trail that year because I had I think it was in a rental that year, and I wasn't allowed to go on Pritchett.
I think
I had other commitments that I had to go do for the company, and I wasn't allowed to go on Pritchett.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun year. I think there was also a vehicle. There was a TJ, a stretched TJ that was trying to go up this other wall before we even got to Chewy.
Mhm.
And I was filming him because it was just straight, almost vertical, and he kept getting so close to getting up that thing. And there's no name for the obstacle from what I know.
Wow.
It's a buggy line, and it was just so much fun to watch him try to do it, because he had a suck down winch in the back,
Mhm.
and he just kept trying, and I was just, come on, man, you can do it, come on, you can do it. But he didn't. I think he self-preservation kicked in, and he just backed off of it.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
I do too. That's when it was fun. That was before I started racing.
Yeah. Before you got all retarded.
Yeah. That first video, I was racing at that point, but the incident on Chewy, that was before I started racing.
Yeah. So the video, that was the year that you picked up the race car from JP, right? Because
Yes.
it didn't even have the stickers on it.
Yep.
Yeah, it got delivered in Moab.
In Moab.
JP drove it out of the trailer, and then Bill took it home from there.
Yep.
I remember coming out of the trailer, get out of the way. It doesn't have any brakes. We don't know where it's going to go. Get out of the way.
And JP's trailer was at the start of the town of Moab, and we were staying at a house outside of Moab on the other end of town. So I had to drive it all the way through town with no brakes.
With no brakes.
Talk
Wait a
about
minute.
sketchy.
Is that the same year JP got a ticket in that?
No,
Was it the year before that?
probably the year before,
Okay.
or when he first built it, probably.
Do you remember hearing about that story?
Uh-uh.
So he was on the main street, and he got pulled over,
Wow.
in that in that buggy.
And he
That
didn't
race
warn
car.
me.
I think he had a fake New York license plate on it.
So
And
did
so-
I. So did
It's the
I.
same license plate.
It is.
Yeah. I wonder if it was the year before or the same year just before you took it over.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
probably the year
I kinda
before.
remember it.
Because
'Cause I remember it didn't have the decals either.
Yeah, I took it. That was when he first built the car. Before he took it to KOH, or maybe after. I can't remember. But I took the car right after they unloaded the trailer, so it wasn't that year.
Man,
Yeah,
those
so
were the
That-
days.
That's the one that Siemens put on its lid, right?
I don't
Or was it
think
the
so.
other car? It was the other car.
It was the other car.
It was the one before it.
Yeah.
It was put on its lid in a parking lot making a turn.
Yeah, it wasn't this one.
So I know in the summer you're probably in the thick of it with racing on the track,
Yeah.
and it's super hot. I've been on tracks where and I don't know why it always feels so much hotter on the track. Do you think there's more attrition doing that than it is racing hammers?
No. There's nothing tougher than King of the Hammers. I've drag raced for many years before off-road. I've raced at many different tracks off-road, and there's nothing tougher than King of the Hammers. Just everything leading up to it, and then the actual race, nothing comes close.
Would you rather finish because of a breakdown 30 minutes into hammers or 2 hours into hammers?
Oh, absolutely 2 hours into the Hammers. Our first King of the Hammers race, we made it 3 miles. And so literally not even 10 minutes into the race, we were done. And that absolutely sucks. The second race, we made it 6 miles. So we had twice as much time on the track, but absolutely sucks when you go through all that work and prep to get there. The flag drops and you go out 3 to 6 miles and you're done in a 180-mile race. Yeah, no, thank you.
Was that in the two-door JL?
That was both in the JK.
In the JK,
Yeah.
okay.
And then
So one time it was Vince, the other time was Ryan, correct?
no, so both times was me driving and Vince as co-driver. Our
Okay.
first two King of the Hammers. And the plan, Vince and I built that car together. And the plan all along was for me to race it for the first 2 seasons. And then on season 3, Vince would take over. And so that was kind of Vince's training because he had never done anything like that before. And never been involved in any form of organized racing before. So, and I have. So I was kind of preparing Vince for to get into the driver's side on year 3. Long story short, I decided after 2 seasons I was done. I wasn't going to race anymore after the second year because it's just too hard on my body. And
You're old.
I'm old, and it was just beating me up. I don't know what's tougher. Probably the road trip to the track and the road trip back. It would just kick my ass every race. And so I told Vince, sorry, but I can't do it anymore. And then Curry Enterprises reached out to me. Garrett, actually, from Curry, says, hey, what are you doing next year? And I said, I'm not doing a damn thing. I'm done. He goes, no, you got to build a JL. You know, there's nobody racing JLs that had just come out. And I'm like, nah, seriously, I'm done. I don't have the energy to do it. He goes, well, we need somebody to build a JL. And, you know, we'll send you axles, whatever you need. So I'm like, you know what? Let me see what I can do. And so I called my dealer and told him what Curry wanted to be a part of. And the dealership was all over it. They're like, shit, we want to be a part of this too. So they gave me a huge discount as part of a partial sponsorship on the Jeep. And then Curry, of course, gave me the axles, and JP helped me out with the suspension. We tried out something brand new on the JL that had never been run before. And we put that car together in 3 months, 3.5 months.
Wow. That's fast.
Didn't have the axles until like 2 weeks before the race. And was literally 2 hours before the start of the race, dropped the car off the jack stand for the last time. We had it ready on the lake bed. But yeah, so the JL was the first KOH. It was KOH number 3 for me. It was the first KOH that I actually made it more than halfway. So the first one was 3 miles, second one was 6, and we made it 120 something miles on the third one with the JL. And that one I was really disappointed in. We actually timed out. Actually decided to turn around and head back to town because we knew we were going to time out. We didn't want to be out in some tough rock terrain in the dark and the race is over. So we decided to turn around and come back. But the reason we timed out is, and we were actually doing really well, and we were on pace to actually finish. I think it would have been close, but we came up on a car that was on its side, or Jeep on its side, and the driver was hanging out of the front window or windshield opening, shaking, trembling. And we were like, oh shit, that does not look good, right? So of course Ryan hops out and pulled the driver out of the Jeep, made sure he was okay, came back to our Jeep, got some water, and was tending to the driver of this Jeep that had flopped. And all of a sudden he hears something coming from the Jeep and like, what the hell is that? So he goes back over and the co-driver was still strapped to his seat, hanging pretty much upside down in the passenger seat of his Jeep. So he pulled the co-driver out, made sure they were both good. And then now, okay, they're good. We got a hold of KOH Recovery. They're on their way. And Ryan and I talked about it. Do we continue or do we stay with them? Turns out the guy, without mentioning any names, the driver had a medical condition that was acting up at the time, and it was bad. It was bad enough to where we were concerned that we didn't want to leave him. So we stayed, and it took recovery over an hour to get there. And when recovery got there, they took the driver and the co-driver, and we were finally free to go proceed with the race. We were looking at the trail, and this Jeep is blocking the one line that's there. So we helped the second team of recovery crew recover the Jeep, get it off the track. And that's when we decided, you know what, we've been sitting here for 2 hours now at this point. Let's just turn around and head back, which ended up being a good decision because there was a major traffic jam up ahead that we would have been stuck anyways. And but yeah, going 120 miles and not finishing was a hell of a lot more fun than 3 or 6 miles.
So that brings up a question. When there's a medical emergency like that it sounded like there was a bottleneck on the trail.
Yeah.
Does the race get red flagged at all, or is it modified, or what happens?
I don't think there's ever been at a King of the Hammers anyways, a medical emergency that stopped the race. On a short course, absolutely. If there's a big wreck and there's a medical emergency, they'll stop the race. But KOH is a little different. You're out in the desert. You've got 180 plus miles of terrain, and we're all scattered everywhere. We're not really running in groups or anything. And we only came upon this one guy because he was ahead of us, and until he wasn't. Yeah, they wouldn't stop the race for that type of situation. But yeah, it wasn't a good situation for us to leave, and so we stayed, and Of course, it cost us the race, but that's okay.
Well, good on you for helping them out. It sounds like it was a serious situation, and they definitely needed some sort of attention. So
Yeah.
good on you.
Thank you. Hopefully somebody do it for me. I mean, I'm old. I'm the guy that should have been flopped over and shaking like a fish or something, you know?
So what goes through your mind when you're at the starting line and it's you know, T-minus 10 seconds and they're counting you down and the flagger is stepping to the side and you're about to go. What's going through your mind?
The first two in the JK, it sucked because we're in a stock class, so we're behind, I don't know, 100 to 150 other racers, right? Everyone else starts before us. Stock class starts in the back. Maybe it's not that many cars, 80 cars. And so we're sitting in Hammertown, and we're winding through Hammertown. And as they send cars out, we slowly inch forward. And it's 30 degrees. We're freezing, right? We're shaking, freezing. You're nervous, and so you're probably trembling already. Then it's freezing, so we're trembling. And it's taking forever, so we're like getting really anxious. And by the time we get to the start line, you're exhausted. It feels like you've been working out for an hour and a half. And at that point, the adrenaline takes over. You're not shaking anymore. You're just like, you're pissed off. Hurry up, let's get this thing going, right? And that's how it was the first 2 years. In the JL, it was different. We made sure to keep the heater functioning in the Jeep. So while everybody else is trembling, shaking in their socks in their race cars, we're sitting in the JL with the heater full blast. It's freaking awesome. Stereo going. I mean, we're totally forgot we're waiting to start a race, right? It was really relaxing and kind of caught us off guard when it was actually time to start because we were so relaxed. And yeah, that was way better.
Do you have any sort of thoughts in your mind like, okay, this is the one we're gonna finish. We're gonna do it in time. We're gonna finish. Does that cross your mind at all, or do you just think, okay, let's just not break?
Yeah. So
what's going on there?
In the JL, we had no idea what to expect because that was the first time we ever drove the car. We had finished it on the lake bed. We actually thought we had it finished the day before. We missed qualifying because the car wasn't ready. And then AccuTune was out there JP set up some shock tuning for us. So I can't remember the guy's name, Mike or Mark from AccuTune. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. Met us out in the lake bed to go do some shock tuning. And so we thought the car was done. We go out, we do 2 runs over the whoops and smell coolant. So find out there's an issue with the cars. We couldn't finish our shock tuning. We didn't get the car done until 2 hours before the start of the race. So really had no seat time whatsoever and had no idea if the car was going to survive, right? We didn't know what was going to break next. And the car actually survived. Nothing broke during the race. But so we had no expectations to finish. We just wanted to go out, have fun, get as far as we could. And after we came in for lap 1 and headed up to lap 2, we felt really good because the car felt good. The crew in the pits told us, you guys are making good time. Just stay after it. Don't push the car too hard. You'll finish. And we were, like I said, we were on pace to finish if we kept going at the rate we were. So we were really pleased with how the car performed, but zero expectation to finish. My 4th KOH, however, with the JKR, JP's old car, I absolutely thought for sure we would finish. That car was dialed by the time we started that race. And unfortunately, we broke. I won't mention what we broke because It's kind of stupid, but unfortunately we broke and we didn't finish. But that was the one race where I felt confident that we would finish, and we still didn't finish.
Is that when Vince is thinking to himself, shit, I got to hike this entire fucking time?
No. So Vince was actually, when I raced a JL, Vince raced a JK for the first time.
Oh.
And then the following year, when I raced a JKR, Vince had hurt his elbow golfing, I think.
What?
Yeah, to a point where, I mean, his elbow was bigger than his leg. And it was bad. And so he shouldn't have even been on the lake bed. But he came down and he had one of our crew members drive for him. So, yeah, Vince didn't drive that year.
Who was the driver that year?
That was Andrew. Andrew Allen. He's actually my fabricator for Brawler Fab. And he has been with us from day one, building the JK and the JL and the JKR and everything else. He's helping with this car as well.
Nice.
Just one of the crew members that's been part of our group for forever. Vince had him drive the car.
So who was his co-dog then? If you were limited on co-drivers and drivers.
Yeah, so Andrew co-drove with Vince the year before. And then that year, since Andrew drove, we had another member of our team, Ryan. Not the same Ryan that you know. Co-drive for Andrew.
Man. So since you're on the subject, go ahead and throw out everyone, shout out your entire squad there. Give them some props.
Yeah, so we've kind of thinned the herd, so to speak, since we left off-road. There's still some members of the team that are still actively racing, but obviously Vince, we've talked about Vince. Vince and I started this thing together from the very beginning. Ryan and Whitney have been with us from the very beginning. Andrew Allen has also been with us from the beginning. Been a huge help with, like I said, building all the cars that we've built, including this one. And that's pretty much it for our off-road team. Everyone else has kind of gone their own way, doing their own thing. Now that I'm drag racing, I have a different group of friends that help me with the car. I've got Tom, who's a coworker at my real job. He's got a lot of knowledge in engine building, chassis tuning. Friend Brian, who recently retired, also very knowledgeable in old Mopars and drag racing. So a little different group of people that I kind of hang out with now, but still keep in touch with everyone from off-road. Ryan and Whitney have been a big part of me drag racing. Prior to having this car, I didn't mention it in the beginning, but I actually, when I bought the TRX, I actually drag raced a TRX and had so much fun that I had to buy a car that I could just drag race. And so I bought a Dodge Challenger Super Stock, and I was trying to get a Demon, but I couldn't get a Demon. So I ordered the next best thing, which was a Super Stock, and it's pretty much a Demon without the crate. And you'll hear Super Stock guys say that all the time. The 9-second factory 9-second drag car, right? And yeah, so I drag raced that all of last year, and actually finished second in points with that car, which is pretty cool. Nice. While I was building this one, so this season it'll be this car only, the Super Stock. I've kind of tucked away in my garage, and it'll just sit there. I won't ever race that car again.
Is Whitney still taking photos of you even on the strip?
Yeah, so she started Brawler Photography, and so all of the drag racing photos that I post and she posts, she's taken probably 95% of them.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then of course we got.
So not only does she make Not only does she make killer brownies, she
Brawler
takes killer
brownies.
photos.
Brawler brownies.
Brawler brownies.
Brawler photography. Brawler Fab. And now we're Brawler Fab Motorsports.
By the way, Whitney, if you're listening to this, I won't be mad if you send me some brownies.
But Armando will if you don't send him some.
Well, I was not going to say anything, but
I mean,
I've actually never had the privilege of a brawler brownie.
What?
Never had one.
That's hard to believe.
I was promised and promised and promised, and I think it was me. My schedule, my timing, my place in certain places never. I just magically pop up and magically don't show up. So
Well,
I never actually.
Unless you're there when the Tupperware is busted out with the brownies. If you're not there, you're not going to get any because they go so quick.
Yeah.
So I guess I can see that. But just to say that you've never had a brawler brownie is just fucking mind-boggling.
I know.
We'll make sure to get you some.
Actually, I think I'd still blame Scott for this one.
Yeah.
I would too.
It has to be Scott's freaking problem. It's all Scott's fault.
I was going to ask. It's probably Scott's fault. Poor Scott.
No, there's nothing poor about that boy.
Yeah.
Fuck Scott. It's Scott's fault that you probably broke down on those races because even though it's not a Jeep part. It's just probably his fault anyway.
Speaking of Scott, when we're struggling with the JL trying to get it done on the lake, but he actually spent hours in the tent with us, calling his engineer buddies back in Detroit at like 1:00 in the morning. Hey, what about this? What about it? Just
Why is this not working? Why does this keep locking?
Yeah, we
up?
had all kinds of electrical problems and just all this weird shit because nobody's ever built a JL before, right? And so he was a huge help on the lake, but that was awesome.
All joking aside, Scott is, as the Hebrews say, he's a mensch. He's a really good guy.
He is.
Just fun guy, good guy to know. He'll be there for you.
Yep.
He's if he's on your team, he's on your
Yep.
team.
Yeah, and that the tech support. I mean, he gets the I blame Scott, but he does so much more to help than the blame. But the blame is just us fucking around with
Yep.
him because he deserves it.
And he after spending all that time in the tent with us, helping us to get the car ready, by the time he left, he hated us. He hated me. Fuck you, Bill. Right. And I felt bad, but at the same time, like, fuck him. I don't care. Right. The Jeep's running now. I'm good. But that guy made it a point to find us before we started while we were in line. And good guy. Thank you, Scott. I know you're watching.
Shout out to Scott.
Yeah.
We love you, Scott. Sometimes. Unless we're missing a hex bolt from something.
Yeah.
Or the wiring's all screwed up in my JL. Or the heated steering, or the heated steering wheel's too hot.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, listen, I appreciate you joining us and kind of catching up with us and talking about the past and the present and what's going on in the future for you. So we wish you luck with your series. I hope you stay safe. I hope your car kicks ass. And, again, thanks for joining with us.
Cool. Well, thanks for the invite. I still don't understand why you wanted some old guy on here, but
Hey, we have some good memories. We have some cool stuff you're working on now.
Yeah, we do.
And we don't want to keep you too long because we know you got to pee.
Yeah. Are we there yet?
Yeah. We're an hour 8 in. You're you probably got to pee.
I do.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right,
appreciate it so
Thank
much.
you. Take care, guys.
Everyone,
Take care.
Thanks for listening.